personnel, outside by all of these rail cars. It is an impressive view as Air 11 was over the scene. Luckily, they're trying to figure out if there were any potential hazards, but as far as drivers are concerned, it was just some blockages. I mean, it wasn't like a train hit a vehicle.
Right.
I mean, those rail cars are really scattered about. There are no evacuation orders currently in place. So, they were trying to identify the contents and whether there were any particular hazards, but nothing in place right now. Obviously, safety remaining on the top priority list of everybody who's investigating. Also, I can tell you that Rawson Road down in Richmond, Rosenberg, this is all happening like parallel to 90. Those crossings are going to be blocked to drivers. But yeah, I mean, look at that. This is Richmond, Rosenberg. We don't know how this derailment took place just yet. I mean, this is very early on. We were talking about how Air 11 was over the scene of this for about 25 minutes or so, approximately. So the time now is 8:39. This must have happened, sometime before the 8 o'clock hour.
Now, the message is coming from authorities there because so many different agencies have coordinated the response to this, including the regional hazmat response team, along with the Richmond Fire Department, Richmond Police, Rosenberg Fire, Union Pacific, Fort Bend County EMS, and the Texas Department of Emergency Management. They are all united in their efforts to assess the situation, to keep the public safe, and start the mitigation and recovery operations. They're asking everybody to stay away from traffic anywhere in this area. Thankfully, this is not a really busy area, but they have said that this has a significant impact on area traffic there.
Yeah, they were saying the only active crossing for the community north of Richmond for access into town is accessible by the emergency underpass at 2nd in Richmond. But again, the Rawson Road and the Old Richmond Road, they are currently blocked by the crossing arms. They'll be raised by Union Pacific as soon as possible. But this is in an area that is not heavily traversed. You see the far right side, top part of your screen before Chopper zoomed in, drivers were getting by. That's 90 itself. So it's just anybody trying to cross that's going to be a problem.
So I'm glad we had the wide shot, because then you could see how close or not close it is to everything else. It doesn't, I didn't see any residential areas immediately next door, but you could see on the other side of 90, you saw the businesses that were there. You can imagine the big deal that it would be to have something in there that spilled. Right. That's always a huge concern because these kinds of train cars do carry often kinds of material that would be hazardous.
Yes, so again, you're looking at 90 near Oak Bend Hospital, located at the city limits of Richmond and Rosenberg. And Alona just suggested multiple agencies obviously on the scene, including the Richmond Fire Department and the Richmond Police Department, responding so quickly to this. And we did see the personnel already sort of hopping over the rail tracks and looking from car to car. It's what I saw them doing already with safety vests on.
Yeah, we could see them. If you look carefully, you can see some of those fluorescent safety vests. We did see them right up close to these cars. They don't have reason to believe at this point that there are hazardous materials. No evacuation orders in place. They're saying right now they do not believe that this is any threat to the public. That's why they got that hazmat team there immediately to take a look. Every one of these train cars is going to have a number on it, and that number is going to be related to what that cargo is carrying. So they're able to figure out pretty quickly what is in all of these different train cars and make sure that that's not a risk to the public. We did see them on the ground right up close there. So they are, basically in ground zero of whatever is in those cars. We don't even see anything that has spilled at this time either. But again, it's difficult to tell without getting much closer. We have a reporter headed there to check this out from the ground. I don't know how close she'll be able to get to this scene because you can see that this is behind an industrial complex and certainly right up against those trees. And so this isn't an area that is being impacted right along roadways there.
What a mess. And you can just imagine how this might have happened and how it might have sounded, and if you were anywhere nearby, and what, 23 cars. Now, when we do cover train derailments, this kind of thing would take so long, too, to clean up.
It's an all-day process. I mean, what apparatus even goes in there to, upright those big tankers? I mean, those cars that have to be, somehow brought up, even if there's not hazardous material.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
We'll keep an eye on any sort of rescue and recovery operations there as they get underway. Again, that first step is always for them to just determine what the public is dealing with, what any safety hazards might be. That's why we get all those multiple agencies there on the scene. And again, you're seeing at the top of your screen a little dot of orange. We believe that that is one of the personnel in a safety vest that is there assessing this situation. And if you're just joining us, we're just reminding you that this is along Highway 90, right at basically the intersection of Richmond and Rosenberg, near Oak Bend Hospital, right at city limits. And so we have multiple agencies there on the scene. And again, this is a pretty rural area, but Jen, as the camera pulled back, you can see Highway 90 is not too far away.
I mean, and when they are uprighting these type of cars, I mean, they have to make sure that there are no power lines around. So if there are any in the area, you could have a temporary power line and power issue. Hazmat teams obviously check for spills and whether or not what chemicals, if any, are inside. So they've got to stabilize everything as far as crews, and then get these massive railroad cranes to be brought in with cables or chains and lift and upright these cars that sometimes can weigh up to hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it's either that or get hydraulic jacks in there, but it's a big deal for the Richmond-Rosenberg area.
And they know it. They have set up a media staging area because they know that this is a big deal. They know that the helicopters are over the scene and that there are multiple crews headed there, because we want to make sure that the community is not worried about any safety issues. We want to follow this cleanup process for you and really get into how this happened. You can see, again, let's take this shot. This is a great angle, Jen, because it just shows you how close this was and is still to some of the traffic in that area.
Right, so off to the left part of your screen, this is right at 90, and you can see the bottom part of your screen. That would be where traffic would normally cross, and fire department obviously set up there so that it prevents drivers from even trying to do so, because that area will be completely shut down for hours to come.
Yeah, but they can go under. I see what you were saying earlier, because the crossing is not actually blocked for the cars. Well, when you see these images, initially when we heard about it, we saw them, the questions we have are how does it impact traffic? What, if any, hazardous material is spilled? Are there any evacuations? So we do have good news in the last 15 minutes or so that traffic is not directly impacted at the crossing, at least. That as far as they know, there's no threat to the public there, and no evacuation orders in place. And as far as I can tell, no residential area right there. Jen, you're looking closely at the video. What are you seeing?
No, I'm just wondering, there's a parking lot far to the left side. Looks like it's plenty full. So I'm just wondering what that establishment is exactly.
I know there's a Walgreens somewhere close, because that's where they're going to be staging, close to it, not right there at it. And so there are some businesses relatively close in that area. I have to say, when you take a look at this shot and you think about trains in Houston, and you think about how many times those trains are going through these very crowded areas, thank goodness this seems to have happened where it did, because at this point we don't have any reports of injuries. We don't have reports of neighborhoods being impacted by this, because it was in that space behind an industrial area, going through this heavily wooded section right between the two cities. And so this could have just been so much worse when we understand that we have so many crossings in our area and such highly populated areas. This is probably a very lucky situation here.
No information from authorities, as far as I know, about how 23 cars derailed and piled up like that. There's nothing that we know of yet?
No, and a lot of times we know the weather was perfect. We know that trains really slow down through residential areas. I don't know exactly how slow they have to go, but I do know that when they go through near where I live, they slow way down at these crossings. You would think that this was going at a decent clip if we had 23 of these cars. I mean, just stack up like they did on each other like that, and it doesn't look like it had just passed through any crossings or anything like that. So it could have been cruising right along at a pretty good pace for this to have happened.
So Fort Bend County Fire Marshal's office there, Regional Hazardous Materials Response Team, just in case, Richmond Fire and Police Departments. You've got Rosenberg Fire Department, Union Pacific Railroad, Fort Bend County EMS, Texas Department of Emergency Management, Unified Command there assessing the scene. So huge deal as the chopper prepares to, lift off and go away. You can see now just a wider look at Richmond.
Yeah, and so from the Richmond Fire Department, they did put out a note that said, they're on scene right near the Cotton Gin, so that's on Jackson Street. No immediate dangers for anyone in the area. They say all of the crossings are blocked. Please divert to 359 overpass if coming south.
Okay, all right. So for traffic, that's again, this is it's a great spot in terms of traffic that it didn't happen where cars were. That's great.
Okay, so